From the Warner Brothers Studios, here she is now, Ellen DeGeneres.
Hey guys! Said Hamlet to Ophelia, a pencil sketch I'll make of thee. The question is, to be or not to be. Today is a very special episode here. Not only am I interviewing one of the greatest writers in the past 400 years, but also possibly the mastermind behind his name. Please welcome Edward de Vere and William Shakespeare.
Hi Ellen, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for having us. Nice to meet you guys. So, Edward, we've never met before, but we have almost the same last name. Is it okay if I call you Edward degeneres?
Okay, yes. I'm very excited to be here.
And Shakespeare, I'm a huge fan of your work, especially The Twelfth Night, which I only recognize from She's the Man with Amanda Bynes before she went all crazy.
Oh yes, that one was one of my favorites.
Well guys, before we talk about your works, I want to address the rumors that have been going on. Edward, is it true that you've been writing Shakespeare's plays for him?
Wait. Are you accusing me of not writing my own plays?
I'm just saying, how many Benedicts does it take to change a light bulb? One to convince him that the light bulb needs to be changed, and then another one to convince the light bulb that it wants to be changed by Benedict. You need two people to change a light bulb, if you catch my drift.
I'm not saying that I did or didn't write his plays, but Will here was only 15 years old when The Merchant of Venice was penned, when he could barely write his own name, and he didn't study law for 3 years like I did.
Well, have you ever heard of something like those child prodigies? That could be me.
Well guys, is it true that 25% of the markings in De Vere's Bible turn out to be your biblical references? I read it on the internet, so it must be true.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, what are a few references anyway?
Yep, only 200 pages of references that you could have used.
If I didn't write my plays, then how would you explain A Winter's Tale and The Tempest that were published after your death in 1604?
Well, according to the article written in 2009, Edward de Vere, The Real Shakespeare, by Dave Gilliat, there is proof that your factory shut down in 1604. Oh, and also...
Wait guys, Shakespeare, I have a question for you. If you did write your own plays, how come it models Edward's life so much? And how are you able to discover such personal secrets that only someone in the inner circle of Queen Elizabeth's life could have known? Someone such as de Vere.
Well, I could have just had a lucky guess on that one. And it's not my fault de Vere had an interesting life. I can't help I'm a creative writer. Anyone could have written those things without specifically targeting one person's life.
It seems to be getting a little heated, so I'm going to send Amy down to do one of my favorite segments, speaking the song lyrics. But first, let's cool off with some dancing.
The chills that you spill up my back keep me filled with satisfaction when we're done. Satisfaction of what's to come. I couldn't ask for another.
Welcome back. Now, as we take a quick break from the interview, I want to call down a few of our audience members to see what they think on this opinion. Would Catherine Elzinga, Sally Ernst, and Anna Yarling please come down? Hi guys, how are you doing?
Hi!
Okay, so I'm going to ask one simple question and then just go down the row and tell me what you guys think. Do you think that Edward was the mastermind behind Shakespeare?
Yes, I think that the true identity of Shakespeare belongs to Edward de Vere. So many factors point to this idea. De Vere was an acclaimed writer of his time, authoring many plays and poems for Queen Elizabeth herself, all the way up until 1593. After that, his name stopped appearing on works, and coincidentally, this is the time that Shakespeare's plays began surfacing. Also, reading that in the article, Edward de Vere from Gale Biography and Context, leads me to believe that de Vere was the true author. This article also suggests that Edward changed his name due to an embarrassing year in 1592, when his wife cheated on him and he began to fall into financial decline. I also find it very interesting for the same article revealed de Vere's family crest to be a lion shaking a spear. I think that is where the name Shakespeare may have been inspired for Edward.
I also believe that de Vere was the man behind Shakespeare. There are so many holes in Stratford man's history that it just doesn't really add up. But I think that de Vere's history makes sense in the context of all the plays and sonnets that Shakespeare wrote. There was a lot of social and political ties between de Vere and Queen Elizabeth, which explains a couple of the audiences for his plays, especially Richard II and Edward VI, because many people think that that if de Vere was the writer of these plays, he would have been trying to warn Queen Elizabeth of people in her royal court that were trying to ingratiate themselves with the power. And Queen Elizabeth herself recognized this fact, and she said to someone that she knew that she was being portrayed as King Richard in Richard II. And it just so happened that these plays were first performed at the same time that Queen Elizabeth was facing these issues for the first time in her royal court. No one else in the kingdom besides the Earl of Oxford, who was de Vere, would have been allowed to portray his position as an English monarch on stage because of all of the secrets that he was revealing and the inner workings of royal life. But there was no way that Queen Elizabeth could have allowed just any common playwright like Shakespeare any license such as this.
Well, I personally believe that Edward de Vere was also the actual playwright of Shakespeare's plays and poems. One article called Oxford versus Stratford, a short summary, on the De Vere Society website provides evidence that strongly supports the conspiracy theory. As Ellen said earlier, Shakespeare's plays closely resemble Edward de Vere's life. They display sophisticated views of society through the highly educated ideas presented and intimate knowledge of high-class life. De Vere was known as Queen Elizabeth's right-hand man, and he had great knowledge of the lifestyle of the aristocrats. Many of the plays were also set in Italy, where de Vere spent almost a year of his life. He became known as the Italian Earl because he was known so well for it. There are just too many similarities between Edward de Vere's life and the events in Shakespeare's plays for the conspiracy theory not to be true. So what do you think, Ellen?
Well, I also do believe that Edward de Vere did write Shakespeare's plays. In the article Candidates for Shakespeare by Brian Jarrett, he proves this statement by saying how much Shakespeare resembled de Vere's life. For example, they both killed a man, he was captured by pirates at one point, and in Shakespeare's sonnets 62, 73, and 180, they infer that an older man was the author. The Earl of Oxford has upper-class upbringing, status, and education, as well as his reputation as a well-traveled man. So that makes him a more likely candidate as the author of Shakespeare's plays. Edward spent 16 months on a tour of France, Germany, and Italy in 1575, and the people believe that this helped Shakespeare's plays benefit from these travels. Finally, de Vere was in Queen Elizabeth's court, and Shakespeare's plays reveal so much that only someone from Queen Elizabeth's inner circle would be able to know. Thank you guys so much for coming, but let's check back in with Edward and Shakespeare to see what they are thinking about this. Okay, Edward, Shakespeare, come on back out.
Hi, Ellen.
Shakespeare, the majority of the audience thinks that Edward has been writing your plays for you. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, I guess the fame was fun while it lasted, but yes, it is true, I have been taking credit for this guy's work.
Well, there you have it, folks. I guess everything you read on the internet is true. Any last words?
I would like to thank the Academy, Leo DiCaprio, for not winning again, and none other than Queen Elizabeth herself. Wait, I was getting confused. I thought we were at the Oscars, but I can't wait to finally come out as the real Shakespeare.
Wow, that news took just as long as Disney to announce that they're finally coming out with the Finding Nemo 2, Finding Dory, starring me. But now let's check in with Amy to see what she's up to.
Romeo, save me. I don't want to be alone.
Excuse me.
love you.
Do you need some help?
And that's all I really know. Oh, check yes, Juliet. Are you with me?
I'm
Rain
sorry?
is falling down on the sidewalk. I won't go until you come outside. Check yes, Juliet. talk to your dad. Go pick out a white dress.
Okay, I
It's
got
a love story, baby. Just say yes.
Yeah.